like the ship to go. Now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Project Defiant, where we take all of our anger and hatred for the world and pile it into reading a Star Trek book. I don't know if that makes any sense. As always, I have Jonathan Shorts here with me to talk about the Autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, chapters 17 through 20. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing good, man. Doing good. I like that intro, sir. Let's just take all of our frustration and anger and you know, I laugh about that because my wife, I've said this to her many times, I'm sure, but like I'll have a bad day or a long day and sometimes just come home, sit down on the couch and say, I need some Trek in my life. Like I just turn on Star Trek and just like, that's where it all goes. So good intro, sir. Makes sense.
I think that's the positive alternative to coming home and doing the Hulk smash everywhere, you know.
Man, I can't afford the Hulk smash.
Neither can the Hulk, quite actually. Okay, but let's get into it. The Autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, chapters 17 through 20. It's been a minute since we talked about this, but we're getting back into it. And chapter 17 is all about the Okinawa and Sisko getting a promotion. But let's talk about it, man. What do we think about Sisko leaving the Livingston at first and going on to try to become a part of this engineering team on the Okinawa?
Oh man, it just so I had an issue with this part, a small issue, but before I get to that, it's kind of what I've come to expect from Cisco, right? I think he's still chasing what his mind says he's going to be.
Mm.
And I think he still feels in his heart that's not what it's supposed to be. Right. So his decisions are kind of being made very almost like logical, like a Vulcan, right? Like he's not listening to his heart and where he actually knows he should be. So that's kind of where I see this and the whole point of going to the Livingston. Then you throw that in, you know, you want to mix with family and child and wife. So I get how that decision was made easy, but I felt like this particular sequence was kind of rushed. You know, I don't know. When I'm thinking about Ben Sisko and how he moved up through the ranks, I guess I expected a longer process.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And maybe the process was longer, but just for the sake of editing, you kind of had to condense it into this small section.
Yeah, I think you're saying not only this chapter, but like the next few chapters, we rush through it really quickly. It's like each chapter is kind of covering the high point or the tentpole point that kind of pushed them forward. I get what you're saying, totally. But there are some things I really, really liked about it, especially here when on Okinawa and he's going and trying to be engineer. He gets on there. He's kind of awed by the construction of the ship and how, you know, the warp nacelle is in the middle of engineering and he's just, you know, awestruck by the multiple floors. I thought all that was pretty cool. I think it's really interesting how we're kind of involved in this war with the Zenkethi, and Sisko does some pretty heroic things in this, like kind of like you said, it's all this stuff that keeps leading us back to Benjamin being a captain or Benjamin having a command. And, you know, it seems like he continues to fight it tooth and nail. Some interesting stuff I really liked about this with the Zenkethi is when they are boarded, you know, get to the point where the Okinawa was boarded and they go back to the classic communicators, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yes.
The flip communicators, I thought that was cool. As we continue, and the plan is to get he was supposed to go to sick bay, but he kind of switches that plan to go to auxiliary control. And you know, I think it was kind of cool seeing him take charge and kind of making a sacrifice in that moment and do something on the fly, which he didn't even expect to do, which it makes sense to us now, you know, just beaming the Zenkethi off of the ship. But you know, I thought it was a really good moment for him and a really harrowing moment where, once again, it seems like it's always something dramatic that happens that pushes him a little bit forward, you know, from his thing he had with Curzon, we protected Curzon, it pushed him a little bit further. But this is another one where he wakes up and all of a sudden he's lieutenant commander and first officer of Okinawa. Like what? That in that sense, I 1,000% agree with you. Like, whoa, okay, we're moving fast here all of a sudden.
I mean, and it's kind of and again, I don't say this to not the writer or the author. It's when you think Benjamin Sisko, like the greatness of Ben Sisko, you
Hmm.
also expect a great story. And it is a great story, right? But
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that step from where he was to lieutenant commander, I expected that to be a grand path, right? Like
yeah,
got promoted here, and then we got to lieutenant, and then we had to do something else, and we got to there, and then finally but it's like, you know, kind of like Nog when he took over, when he ended up captain of that Defiant class ship,
yeah.
right? Just all of a sudden you're just the captain, and
Yeah, also, he wasn't even in command. He wasn't even in command, but all of a sudden he finds himself first officer like that. Whoa,
yeah, like
a
where are the
huge
people
jump.
we skipped over? And there had to be more command level officers on the ship. Like, what I mean, I get he did something great, and I'm
Hmm.
glad he got that promotion. But like in the time he was knocked out, like someone decided, let's get an engineer and make him second in command. And it was the right choice. Like I said,
Yeah,
I just wanted
yeah,
more in that story, I guess I was
yeah.
expecting.
Well, he did save life of everybody on the ship, so you know, be that as it may. Also at the beginning of the chapter 17, we get a pretty cool call out to Trilla Scott again, which I think Trilla was his friend from the
Yes.
academy. Now, I didn't realize this at the time, but it's a direct reference to her being in Conspiracy, and she is one of the captains in Conspiracy
Really?
episode. Yeah,
I
I
did
did
not
not
know
remember that.
that.
And that's what I could kind of say about these next few chapters. It does a interesting job. I would love to see this played out in live action, but it does an interesting job of weaving in TNG stuff, weaving in the stuff we've seen already in DS9 and applying it to Benjamin's story. And you got to think Conspiracy was like a huge Starfleet wide uh thing that impacted everyone. So of course we would cover that. But me just thinking of this book, I didn't really, okay, are we even going to go into that? But no, Child Scott is directly involved in that event. So I thought that was really, really cool.
I had no idea. Why didn't I put that together? The thing, well, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, man, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
I'm with you. I love how we keep getting these call outs. And so far, kudos for being brave enough to throw these call outs in,
Yeah.
because I mean, and we all know like how hardcore Trekkies watch something, read something, and it's one small thing out of place, and man, they burn it
Yeah.
to the ground.
Yeah.
Like if I were writing this, I would just be scared to death to try to put that in, and make those timelines work. But so far, it, kudos, it's been perfect.
Yeah, you have to be pulling your hair out, man. Really.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel like that was a pretty good, interesting chapter. And again, all these chapters are kind of events that kind of propel him a little bit forward. In the next chapter, chapter 18, is the subtitle is Saratoga. And after he is away from for a year serving, or year or more, excuse me, serving on the Okinawa, he wants a place where his family can come with him instead of having to leave them behind. So he searches for ships that allow families to be on board, and the Saratoga is one he chooses. Uh, I found everything about this chapter really, really fun, really interesting. Did you ever expect to see Lieutenant Commander Data serving as second officer on the ship? Did it feel forced or
No, it didn't feel forced. You know what? That's another person, and I didn't. We always talk about like we're happy to have this book because we get to see the past of Cisco, right? Like we watched
Yeah.
Cisco and DS9, like man, I wonder what that guy was like leading to this.
Yeah.
Data is also another one of those. Like we hear a lot about his commendations, his medals, his positions, but we've never really had a good story of where he was before the Enterprise, right?
Yeah.
And that I was glad to see that. It was definitely a shock, right? And to hear him to get that introduction or cameo or whatever you want to call it before we get O'Brien,
Yeah.
was a shock to me as well. But I love
Yeah,
Data. So
it definitely made me wonder, was this something that was known before? Because I don't ever remember hearing anything about it in DS9, or even for that matter, you would think when he first comes aboard DS9, you would have some interaction between the two. Maybe we did, and I'm just not remembering, but it didn't jump out at me if it did happen.
you know what? I'm currently watching through TNG again because I've
Mhm.
watched DS9 too many times. But I don't remember, and I have yet up to season 4, season 5 of TNG, have not heard mention of Data at any other previous posting in detail,
Yeah,
other than the
yeah,
fact that he was somewhere at one point.
yeah. But Data, of course, mentions that he appreciated how Benjamin just treated him like any other officer when he arrived. I thought that was pretty cool. And I really have to give hats off to Mr. Attico here for, sometimes you read things and you can't really picture the character or Brent Spiner or whatever character saying the actual words, but I think he did an excellent job of infusing these lines with Dana's voice. I could,
Yes.
I could, I could. I'm picturing Brent Spiner doing all the lines as I read this, so I thought that was an excellent job as far as uh portraying Data like written on the paper. I thought it was really good.
I'm glad you pointed that out because in my head, I was the same way. I was like, man, I could just see that's how he would respond. When he said rolled out the red carpet and he was kind of looking, or when he said, "Can I ask a question?" Cisco said, "Shoot." I could see that look on Data's face. And you see that play out time and time again on
Yeah,
TNG where somebody says something and they know what Data is getting ready to ask or say, and they interrupt him with his mouth wide open every
yeah,
time, right?
yeah.
And correct him or explain it to him. So I did love that. That was great.
Yeah, yeah, this is an excellent job here. And again, him serving as second officer, and he's kind of facilitating these interviews for first officer aboard the Saratoga, which I thought was this seems pretty interesting as well. So I did like that. Before we get into that further, I did forget to mention that Benjamin had a little call with Curzon before this, asking, trying to get advice from him. And we get to see a little classic Curzon in here as well, where he has his woman in the like, boy, they don't hold no punches on that, do they?
Hey, and
Pull no
you know what makes that even more funny, right?
must have.
So obviously you're reading, and as you read and hear and read about characters and all that, you kind of form a picture in your mind, right?
Mhm.
What are you picturing when you think Curzon?
Well, okay, spoiler alert. Have you seen the latest season of Lower Decks?
No.
Okay, okay, okay. Hmm. I think you need to watch.
Uh,
Okay, you can watch this without watching the entire season. Watch the penultimate episode of Lower Decks, where uh, a Curzon may appear prominently in the episode in animated form. So for me, I mean, of course, we had that DS9 episode. We know of Curzon, but for me, I was thinking about that episode a lot. But you should, dude, it's a good episode. You should watch it. Trust me,
maybe.
just trust me on this. But that's what I was picturing when we was getting, this call to Curzon and Benjamin. He's kind of just.
I have to watch it. See, that's gonna change my so if I did watch it, I would hate for it to change what so it's just what you're talking about, the DS9 episode. Like Odo playing it as Curzon, like that mix, to me that embodied exactly what Curzon would look like.
Mm,
So I'm reading this section and I'm picturing the Odo version of Curzon in this situation. And it's just
oh yeah,
crazy funny to me, like Odo with women like a naked woman in a towel, and
yeah,
like it's
yeah.
Odo. Anyway, I'm sorry. Maybe that was just me.
No, I mean the character on Lord X very much embodied a lot of the same things you're saying. So I think you would definitely enjoy it. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting in that as well. Is like, I'm calling you for some heartfelt advice, and you're just being Curzon on Curzon is what they say.
That's it.
Um,
But he did provide the advice he needed, I think.
yeah, yeah. Captain Storl, and I'm probably butchering it. Storil of the Saratoga, is who Benjamin has to impress in this chapter. And as he arrives he has a meet on the holodeck for, I like the brilliance of this scene where he has to go on the holodeck to meet with the captain and meet with the bridge crew. I don't know how realistic it was, but for the whimsy of it, I really enjoyed it.
You don't think?
Well, I mean, you get the Captain Storrow is like a very researched captain, but I think what do you think he was looking for by this whole holodeck scene where it's a recreation of a club in New Orleans that Benjamin knows about, and the rest of the bridge crew is in there. Each has an instrument, and they jam together. What do you think the purpose of that was? I have my own thoughts, but
Okay, well, first, let me say this was another example of another happened too fast situation, right? Like you just went in here and jammed the song out and like you got the job. All right. So that
hired.
yeah, like that I feel like is my problem. The way he did it, I don't think a problem. I wish there would have been more about it. Like that was part of it, and then we'd actually have a sit down interview. I'm more interested in what the other commander that was interviewing before Sisko went through. So it seems like he personalized these interviews to the person, right?
Yes.
And he came out very upset. And I can't imagine you
did.
come out of a jazz club upset.
Yeah.
That being said, I like this just for the fact of if you've ever watched, like you're watching this, I can't remember. Again, I'm watching through TNG.
The rocker episode when he's with the band.
No. This is something completely different. So the captain was kidnapped or something, and he came back. Well, they got him back. So, and I think I forgot how it go down. Anyway, this alien species ended up beaming aboard to the bridge, right, and was threatening the ship. And the captain kind of looked at Riker, and Riker looked at Worf, and Worf looked at them. Next thing you know, they dropped like this beam down over the guy and prepared to transport him. And Captain Picard said, "I'm so well in tune with my crew that I only took one look to confine you in this beam." Right? To me, that seamless operation on bridge crew is the most important and something you can't really teach without years and years and years of mistakes. So if you're having to build a bridge crew after a disaster, you lost 3 people of your bridge crew.
Yeah.
We got to put them back together. What's the quickest way to do that? We need to find a way to make sure we all work together seamlessly. Music, jazz music, the chaos of jazz that blends together to make it good is the perfect way for it. And then she interviews Ben Sisko. He already knows he has musical background. Let's see if he can pick up on it. So I did agree with that. I like that. I just wish that wouldn't have been the deciding factor.
Well, I put it like this. I think by the time they actually arrive for the interview, the captain pretty much knows 99.9% of everything they know about the person that's incoming. They pretty much know they already want to hire this person. But I think the fact that he was able to come in and have this synergy with the rest of the bridge crew in such a way, again, very unconventional, but I still thought it was very fun and very interesting. They were able to let each part or each member of the bridge crew have their own solo, as they played this, jazz is very improvisational.
Yeah.
And very on the fly. And, he said he didn't have sheet music. He just had to go in there and play. And the fact that they all can get their solo and jam together, not what I would have thought of as a way to interview a prospective first officer, but nonetheless, I agree with you. I thought it was really, really grand.
Especially coming from a Vulcan, right?
Yes. Well, that's the thing about this Captain Storrow. He seemed very unconventional in a lot of ways. And, I know there's not emotion involved, but it seemed like he wanted to be very close knit with his bridge crew. And maybe just like purely from a operational point of view, that's how we can be a well-oiled machine if we know each other and are friends to some extent. So I really, really appreciate that. It is another thing that when I think about this book, things that I would want to see in a live action, make this book. It would be amazing.
It would be.
The blueprint is already here. Just make the book, man. The Bridge Crew Band is what we're calling it. I thought that was pretty cool, man.
And it doesn't even have to be a series. It doesn't have to be a long movie. Let's just get maybe like a short 3-episode series. That's all you like, an extended movie, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, once we start talking about the Saratoga, we start getting into yet another moment which we all have to kind of deal with, that we all kind of,
Knew it was coming.
yeah, we knew we would eventually get there. And yeah, of course, Jennifer and Jake is aboard, and we see, and let me know if I'm skipping over something you want to go back to, but we found, well, go ahead.
Well, the only thing I found that was interesting, I didn't know, and you probably have the book in front of you. I don't have it open. It was one, oh, maybe that's too far ahead. I don't remember. But where we actually found out that Ben and Jennifer are working together on a project.
Yeah, that's when the whole part with cetacean ops that we got in this
yeah,
book.
yeah. That,
Yeah.
like, and that's something we never really, I didn't know that. I don't know if we missed it, or maybe I don't remember that ever being said in the show.
Yeah. And even though she wasn't in Starfleet, she's more of an administrator.
Right.
I almost feel like that part wasn't really needed to a certain extent. It was, as far as a point of view, just seeing them having to butt heads in their various
Right.
roles. I thought it served that purpose, but it almost, to me, it wasn't really needed. And maybe just another nod to okay, we got Jennifer here. We got Jennifer. Jennifer's not going to make it. We got to talk about Jennifer.
That's not funny, but I get your point.
Yeah.
I think in the way that these chapters were lined out, and the speed at which we're getting to the goal, right? I think is not needed. Overall, if we're telling the story of Benjamin Sisko, I think it was needed. I think we needed more of it to make it worth it. You know what I mean? Because I would have loved to hear more of that I feel like we didn't really get a whole lot of Jennifer.
Yeah, because he's having to fly through these.
Yeah.
Having to fly through these chapters. So I definitely I can see what you're saying with that one.
Because, I mean, it's so much of DS9 is focused around Jennifer, whether directly or indirectly. And, again, that's another one of those things we just kind of I would like to see more story of, more backstory on, and not just footnotes in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on a little bit into chapter 19, Wolf 359. This is where the S hits the F, the proverbial S hits the F. Yeah, I really appreciated some things in this chapter, as far as knowing that they kind of feel like the Borg cheated in a way, because, like, of course they're the Borg, but
Right.
it's going to be 3 years from now, and the Borg is using transwarp conduits to come, a year instead of 3 years, getting there way early. And they were prepared, but were not prepared, in a way. And even like some of the stuff with their strategy that I didn't know about, like the whole strategy in Wolf 359 was to send different waves, and the Saratoga was in the first wave, and you're saying like almost no ship survived that first wave.
In the first minute.
In the first minute. And it was supposed to be a very organized skirmish, but no, just one ship pretty much decimated everyone. What are your thoughts on how we see this play out in chapter 19?
Actually, I'm trying to remember which series and which episode we kind of saw this battle play out in live action on one episode or another, at least part of this battle. And Mr. Attico gets it it's very detailed. Like whatever episode that was I was watching, it's kind of how I pictured it.
Are you talking about with the Locutus aboard? Yeah, so the episode was Best of Both Worlds. And I think we even see some of it in, I want to say, the last season Picard. Do they show a flashback? Maybe not. Maybe it's just him talking about it. But in any case, yeah, it was interesting just knowing what type of strategy they had going into it, and they weren't caught completely with their pants down. This was kind of their last stand.
And I find it strange that Starfleet would choose that strategy. Starfleet's never really been a like throw it at the wall and let's see what sticks type thing. It was always been a more of a let's get our information, let's make a. But I mean, I guess it is the Borg that's 2 years early. So what do you do, right? I don't know. That's what kind of I felt like they basically said, "Hey, first wave, we're going to sacrifice you to learn."
Which made even less sense that the families would still be aboard the
Right.
Saratoga. If you know, and maybe that's a loophole in this book, because if you're waiting for years and you know you're gonna be, or supposedly you're gonna waiting for years, maybe they were just on there because they didn't have enough time to get them off because they thought they'd be 2 years off. But you kind of knew you were in a danger zone, and this would be the first line of defense against the Borg when they did arrive. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to have families on the Saratoga, you know?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just a comfort level. You got like the Enterprise, which is a generational ship.
That's true.
I mean, families are on every battle they go to. They're quick to separate that saucer section.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Oh my God. But I mean, I guess it's just kind of a norm. Like, how many battles has the Saratoga gone into with a family on board, and it's worked out, so why should they expect it to be any different?
Yeah, I guess you kind of just got to live life,
Yeah. Because I mean, by that, if not, they'll be having to drop them off every 3 months.
But just to kind of emphasize the point just a little bit more, Benjamin saw these people, his bandmates that he had all this synergy with. He began to see his colleagues, the people he worked with on the bridge crew, as his family. They're on his family ship, and he had such a close bond with the people on the Saratoga. He felt like this was his home, which I found like that. I really like that sentiment that was expressed in this chapter that, this, just like DS9 becomes his home, this was his home, and the people on there were his family, and their families were his family too, and, when the S hits the F and your captain that's been part of this energy is well, everybody except the one guy was pretty much didn't make it.
Right.
Didn't make it. So yeah, that was kind of sad to see that he lost all of his bridge crew friends. He lost his home, he lost his family, he lost his wife. He barely made it out alive, and it hopefully, I mean, even though there's a short chapter, hopefully it painted a little bit more of the picture of where we see Benjamin at the beginning of Deep Space Nine, where he freaking hates Jean-Luc. Jesus.
Well, he made. So I was kind of looking for that reading through this, of like, at what point did he start to see Jean-Luc not as a victim, but as the antagonist, and he made the one comment, and I forget the exact wording. He said the demon that was Picard or something like that, or the demon maybe that embodied Picard, or I don't know how that was. But in this particular chapter, he's kind of looking at it, Picard, as like he's been taken over. He's been, he's the victim in this.
Yeah, he's the victim too. That's what he failed to realize.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in this chapter, it seems like he realizes that, but I guess after some time, maybe that changes.
Yeah. Well, I think the chapter is saying he realized it took him some time to realize that Locutus was also, or Picard was also the victim. Because even if you see in the course of emissary, by the end of it, he does change his tone a little bit the second time he talks to Picard. But yeah, man, it's some heavy stuff in that chapter in particular.
And it's still like, again, I'm not knocking Mr. Attico or the book. It's still great. I just feel like these chapters are just a bit rushed. Now, I guess I have to keep reminding myself this is not necessarily meant to be an autobiography, right? I mean, even though that's the title of the book, but what it actually is a letter from Sisko, from Ben to Jake.
Yeah, if you look at it in that context, it's more,
yeah. So some things may not be as important to go into detail with. Like he wanted Jake to see his progression through his career, you know, whether he got to lieutenant commander in a long drawn out step-by-step process, or, you know, hey, I put in a lot, but let's just suffice it to say, after this incident, I was promoted.
Yeah, and the book does a good job of almost bookending every chapter with, "Oh, Jake," you know, he'd give a little blurb to Jake by the end. Jake, I was feeling this, and family is important, and all this. It kind of ends every chapter by emphasizing that he is actually still just talking to Jake about these things.
Because you get lost in these chapters, man, and you kind of forget that it's a letter to Jake, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
glad
you
that he
do.
throws that in every now and then, because again, I was reading through some of this, and I was like, man, it just feel rushed. And then he happened to throw in, so Jake, this is what I'm like, well, yeah, he's still talking to Jake. So what's important for Jake to know?
Yeah, man. Again, I can't wait till they do an audiobook version of this.
Oh, that would be
Because I feel
awesome.
like they get the right voice actors. It could be really, really amazing.
Can we not just get Avery Brooks to do it?
Or even Sir Lofton. I'll take either one of them.
Yeah, I'll take. You gotta be. Well, I don't know. I'll do a what is it? GoFundMe. We can raise enough money to pay Avery Brooks to read this.
Wait, when was the last time I talked to you? Did I tell you I met Sir Lofton?
No, you didn't.
I did. There was the Trek tour came to Dallas, and I went, and I had a couple of conversations with him, man. Just
Oh,
walking
you
in the hallway.
suck.
Yeah, it was amazing. He was there. Anson Mount, Tawny Newsome. There's a bunch of people. Ethan Phillips,
Nice.
Casey Biggs, Ethan. It was a bunch of people. I
Wow.
shouldn't have started naming them. There was a bunch of people there, man.
Lucky you, man. Lucky you. One day I'll grow up to be like that. One day.
Oh man, it was amazing. You should have came. Man. But yeah, getting into chapter 20, which is named Defiant, Project Defiant. Sisko, being the engineer turned command officer, proposes this project, and there's some heavy hitters on this project that you would think. Yeah, I was like, wow, all these people on this project Defiant, namesake of the ship we see in the show, or the Defiant class, and also this project that Benjamin is ready to smack the Borg in its face. And we have these heavy hitters such as Leah Brahms, Commander Shelby, Sisko himself, and then also his friend his bridge officer from the Saratoga Azor as well. This is pretty cool, and I think once we get to this point, we know how important the engineering part of Benjamin was. But again, it's just stuff I had never thought of as I watched the show. Like, oh, he was hell bent on getting back at the Borg, and he has this whole project where, and maybe they mentioned it when they mentioned the Defiant. I just don't remember. You're watching back through it.
So no, I'm glad we're reading. He put this in. The only thing we get in DS9 when he goes and picks up the Defiant, and O'Brien and they're all asking him, he said, well, there's a project that was mothballed by Starfleet back during the Borg incident or something like that. And that's kind of all we get, all the detail.
He doesn't say, I headed the project.
No, he doesn't.
And executed the project.
Well, that's why I was excited reading this. I was like, that would make sense that he would be the head of this. And then also reading through this is actually, or maybe I missed this in earlier chapters, but he actually may have his design already that he was working on somewhere else before we get to this.
Oh, no. I think they're referring, you remember when he was in the academy and he was on the water planet, the ship they built, they called it the Defiant.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's what they're referring to.
Yeah,
chapter.
that was. That's right. That's right.
With the Master Chief guy.
That's
right. His name.
I'm just glad to see that that's there, because in my head watching DS9, I was like, why was Starfleet working on such a heavily armed ship to begin with? And like, who pushed it to development? That just seemed outside of what Starfleet would do.
Well, even in this chapter, they mentioned from going from a time of exploration to maybe a time of war.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing there. But yeah, definitely and it's so interesting the way they put it in this book, because immediately in the aftermaths of the disaster, no resources spared into trying to find a way to defeat the Borg. And then, like a lot of things that happened a few years later, people forget. People aren't as gung ho about putting all our money and our resources in it. And he tries everything he can to keep this project going. And it's almost like a lot of ways you see other geniuses or other people who are trying to do something for a specific cause. They get so hell bent and so adamant about completing the project or getting to the certain point where they kind of lose themselves. I mean, the argument can be made that he kind of lost himself a little bit in this project.
And that's the true engineer in him coming out, right? Like every Starfleet engineer gets lost in whatever they're working on. And maybe not even engineer. I mean, think about Tom Paris and the Delta Flyer.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you start working on these ships and it's your creation. They get lost in it. I mean, same thing, Leah Brahms. I mean, she's one of those that gets lost in a project. Shelby got lost in the Borg,
Yeah.
My only disappointment about this chapter, and it's nothing we could have done because it wouldn't have fit. It could just no way to make it fit. I would have loved this being completed with a Geordie LaForge on board. There's no way we could have worked that timeline out for him to be away from the Enterprise for that long. I get that. But I mean, you got Leah there. That would have just been a perfect mixture. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they integrated Shelby into this story, I thought was pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
Because we see Shelby again in Picard as well.
Man, I didn't like her for a while in Picard.
Yeah, well, I didn't like her in Picard. Well, she was only in Picard a short while.
Not Picard, I mean in TNG.
TNG.
She
was kind of irritating.
She was after my boy Riker's job, man.
Well, they have to defend the Earth at all costs, man. So you can't keep blaming too much. Can't blame her too much.
Good point.
Yeah, so
Borg brings out the worst in us.
Yeah, it does. Shelby was a handful. I loved this little chapter here where you're seeing the engineer come out a little bit more.
And
you mentioned the project being mothballed. By the end of it, Sisko is told by his thin friend Admiral Layton, which we know what happens to Admiral Layton a little bit later. Oh my God. Oh, that guy was a lot.
Yeah.
But he is the one that has to tell Sisko the project has been canned and reassigns him to Terra Nor. Or he gets reassigned to Terra Nor. Which, you haven't gotten into chapter 21, but I can't wait till we talk about that a little bit more because I won't give spoilers, but I enjoyed
I got into it a little bit. It's a little bit.
Yeah, it's a lot of. I feel like we're getting to. I like when we get these illustrations that are more in depth and more. That idiom, where they say "show me, don't tell me." I feel like when we get these fleshed out stories about what happened, you're showing me, but it seems like 21 is a lot of. Let me tell you what all these people were to me. Kind of thing. Yeah.
So far, I mean, I've gone through, like I said, half of it, and so far that's been kind of exactly what that is. I love, and I know we're getting into it, and we'll follow back up next one, but I just love the Chief O'Brien one.
Yeah,
all right.
It's pretty cool.
And now that being said, since this is kind of a good place to not end it, but we're talking about these 4 people working on Defiant for 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And they just could not figure out how to get it right. He takes it to O'Brien and DS9 and gives him a week, and he figures out how to control the power in this ship.
Yeah.
Like, how awesome is this? An unenlisted man figures out what 4 engineers couldn't figure out in 3 years.
Yeah, and I wonder how. I mean, they say it in the previous chapter about how the way Leah, Dr. Braun says it sounds like revolutionary. Oh, route the weapons through the warp core,
right?
Which has to be. It sounds like a gargantuan problem to balance all that and keep it from going haywire. So, yeah, the fact that they were able to fix that and resurrect the ship from mothballs, as you said, I thought was pretty cool that Orion kind of hit at that. Some good stuff.
And I think it was a simple fix. I don't remember. God, I don't know what episode. Somebody else was working on a similar problem on a similar ship. And O'Brien was telling him, like, we had the same problem on the Defiant. It would tear itself apart. All you got to do is, like, route the something through the ODN something and something. Yeah, just kudos to O'Brien, man, and just a kind of a recognition of the engineer. And I think it's mentioned in one part of that chapter that he was being wasted in the transporter room.
Yes, like, oh, shots fired at Picard.
Yes.
Shots fired.
Um,
But yeah, man, any other thoughts of these previous 4 chapters, man? Because I have to say I very much enjoyed them. I do kind of agree with you that they were, from our point of view, maybe they seem rushed, but from like just giving Jake these life lessons point of view, I think they kind of accomplished what they need to. And there's a lot of stuff in here we didn't even cover, man. So, but I really enjoyed what we got in these few chapters.
I did too. Like I said, I mean, I said it was a rush. So like I said, I'm not complaining. It's not a knock at it. It's just, we keep wanting. I think the problem is, for me anyway, I'm gonna put words in your mouth, and you said it a few times, I'm wanting so much to get a live action movie out of this. It's so good. I want more, right? And sometimes we don't get that, and it's kind of disappointing. But I do like the things we've touched on. I hated getting to the Wolf 359 because, like you said, we knew where we were going to go with that. But again, throughout this whole book so far, it's been kind of giving us of what made Sisko.
Yeah.
Right. We're hitting the high points of what made Sisko. And in turn, by him telling Jake, I think he's not making Jake, but giving Jake what he needs to make himself. And I think it's good.
Let's throw a wild card out there. We are about to get our first made-for-TV Star Trek movie, made for streaming Star Trek movie with Section 31 and Michelle Yeoh. Say that they just want to workshop another live action thing, and they wanted to do the story of Benjamin Sisko. Who is your young Sisko casting? Or do we have to do de-aged, or do we have to do AI? Who is your young Sisko casting, if any? Do you think we should even attempt something like that? Or now are you fine with just another actor just playing him? Obviously, it has to be another actor, but... Or are you getting Guinan flashbacks all of a sudden from Picard?
So when you say young Sisko,
well, younger Sisko, obviously they have to find someone that looks sort of like him, I would think. But I'm thinking the years from maybe even Adventures with Curzon up until right before the Saratoga, or right before the Wolf 359. You know, what if we could have those adventures? Is it even possible to find some to embody Avery Brooks in a new series, in a movie or series?
God, Morgan Freeman is too old.
He's older than Avery Brooks. What are you talking about? Maybe we can leave that one on the table for next time, because I kind of threw it. I can't even think about it myself.
Hold on. I gotta think of one person. God, that's a good question.
Denzel Washington's son. Nah, he's too short, probably.
Denzel would be a perfect one.
He's too. What are you talking about?
I know he's too
Denzel
old.
is older than Avery Brooks.
No, all of the good ones are too old. We're gonna have to AI it.
There's other actors, man. You gotta. We can go do our research. Go do our research and come back.
I hadn't seen a good movie, and anyway.
All right. Well, once again, man, thank you for joining. We covered 4 chapters this time. There are actually 8 chapters left. We may take that into 2 or take it in 1, depending on how we feel before we get our next review out. John, it's so awesome to have you back, man. Anything you want to shout out, talk about before we kind of wrap things up and get out of here, man?
No, man, everything. Not really much going on with me. I'm watching TNG over again. Excited about the Section 31 stream movie thing. I think I'm going to try this Lower Decks. So we'll see what you say.
What if I just I can give you 3 episodes. You can watch them today. Let me give you just 3 episodes from the latest season to watch.
Okay.
And I swear, if you'll love them. You'll love them because they're bangers. They're bangers. And I know there's a lot of me saying bangers to Lower Decks because I know you're not a Lower Decks fan. But trust me, this last season was pretty solid. Just watch. I'm gonna give you 2 episodes to watch. And I think you will really love them. The caveat, well, not caveat, background this season was all about subspace fissures or multiversal rifts in this throughout the season. But I think you will like these episodes, I suggest. Thank you all for joining. I hope you enjoyed our coverage of chapters 17 through 20. Until next time, guys. Ow! If we do a movie version of the Autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, you want to hear my casting?
Well, I don't know.
It might turn the world against us.
Oh, God. All right, hit me.
Jonathan Majors would be awesome.
Oh, God.
Think about it. Think about it, man. Think about it. He has the gravitas. He has the height. He don't look like him, but like you said, we're gonna find nobody that looks like Avery Brooks, obviously. But I think Jonathan Majors could pull it off, man. I really
he'll need the money after this court case.
Hey, man, he married Megan Good. He got money, man.
Hey, she could play a Jennifer.
Yeah. Built-in wife.
Hey, you know what? You're not wrong. I see that.
I told you, man.
He has the voice and the temperament.
He does, man. He can do it.
I like it.
Or if you have better casting, let me know. But that's my casting.
I like it, man. I don't know why I like it though.
We're gonna get Star Trek canceled, man.
Oh man, Mr. Attico is gonna block us. Don't block us, Mr. Attico.
Oh boy.
You've been listening to the Discussing Network. Find out more at discussingnetwork.com.
Can I say that like shut up Wesley? I can just go shut up Clarence?